Welcome, everybody, to Bash the Trash Global Bash Online. My name is John Bertels. I'm the co-director of Bash the Trash Environmental Arts. And over here,
Karina Piaggio, the other co-director of Bash the Trash.
and if you're wondering why you're, hold on a second. Hello? Okay. I'm posting it on YouTube, and you are going ahead. I think I, okay. So, all right. So we should start again. Is that correct? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this. I'm going to hang up, go back to the card, play the music, and we'll go again. Okay. Okay. Bye.
Little detail.
Okay. So we're going to mute this again.
Playing some garbage.
Hey, everybody. I'm John Bertels from Bash the Trash, and welcome to Global Bash Online. And I'm the co-director of Bash the Trash Environmental Arts. And over here,
Karina Piaggio, I am the other co-director of Bash the Trash.
and if you're wondering why we are both in the same location, is because we are both a husband and wife couple, and we run Bash the Trash together for the past 31 years. And basically, what we're doing is we're taking one of our shows that we bring to kids and schools, and we're bringing it online. And so this is something that we're bringing to your homes and everything. We're going to be having musicians joining us from around the New York City area, from their homes as well. And we're going to be taking a look at how musical instruments work around the world and how different cultures come together and how they share things. Before we get started, we want to show you a quick little video that we have put together that our musicians have created. And we're just going to give a little snippet of this, but this shows a little bit about how musicians can sort of come together, play together with each other. And even though they come from different traditions and different cultures, still the musical side of things comes together and can be a unifying structure. So I'm going to share a screen with you, something real fast here, and we'll take a quick look at this. Hold on a sec. Share screen, and we'll move to there, and we're going to take a quick look at this video. Here we go. Let's try it again.
There you go.
So there you get a sense of the kind of thing that we're talking about as we take a look at these kinds of musical instruments that come from all around the world. So, sorry, I'm just trying to get us back here so everyone can see us again. Cancel. All right. So, once again, what is Global Bash? Global Bash is this idea of how musical instruments work all around the world and how people can come together and play those instruments. And, all around the world, when people build musical instruments, they tend to build it from whatever is in their backyard. And what is in our backyard here with Bash the Trash is trash. And these are the kinds of things that we tend to build our musical instruments with. But if you're in a rainforest, for example, you're going to build your musical instruments out of something very different. You might build it out of the bamboo that's growing in your backyard. If you live on a riverbank, for example, you might build your musical instruments from the clay that you would find in the riverbank. And the truth is that music is such a universal concept, and every culture that we have found around the world has created music in some kind of way and musical instruments that we just feel that it's something that it's really human nature, really sort of part of what we do and how we put everything together. Now, as we explore our musical instruments through a Global Bash today, we're also going to be taking a look at the idea of how those instruments work with homemade sides as well. And if you have any questions about how to build your musical instruments at home or questions for some of the musicians along the way, we'll be able to go ahead and take a look at some of your questions. I'll be able to choose a couple questions and pass them on to the musicians. At this point, let's go ahead and introduce our musicians. So I'm going to take my spotlight off, and I'm going to ask all the musicians to take your mute off, and let's find out who is here. And I'm going to start with Rowan. You're up in the corner there. Let me introduce everybody to Rowan. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let's find out a little bit about you.
So hi, everybody. My name is Rowan Kimani, and I'm a percussionist who specializes here on the tabla, and I'll be talking about this instrument. But I'm coming to you live from Harlem. I live in Manhattan, and this is my own home residence, so I'm officially the artist in residence here.
We've all become artists in residence at this point, I think.
There is no other way.
Right, it's artists in our own residence, yep. Awesome, great. Let's introduce somebody else. Now, Hector, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, hello everybody. Good morning, buenos dias. My name is Hector Morales. I am right now also in my home in New Jersey. I was originally, I was born in Peru, in Lima, Peru. I grew up, I was born and raised over there. And I moved to this area about 20 years ago. And I came here to study music, to study jazz. And today I'm going to be sharing a little bit about the music and the instruments that I brought when I came from Peru. I'm going to be talking about the cajon, the box drum.
Okay, cool. And then finally, let's introduce ourselves to Brian. Hey, Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Brian Shankar Adler. I'm live streaming from my home in Brooklyn, New York. And I am a drummer, percussionist, composer, and educator. I play a lot of different kinds of percussion instruments from all over the world. And today I'm going to talk a lot about the drum set, which I also play. And I'll introduce that soon.
Awesome. Well, great. Thanks for introducing yourselves, everybody. We're going to hear more from all these folks a little bit later on. Before we go on, I'm going to play a little bit more of this video because I mentioned that we've been using this video. You saw a little snippet of it earlier, and we're using an app called Acapella. And Acapella is a free app that you can find on your phone. It's a really great way to be able to play with other people around the internet. And the problem with working with connections like these is that there's something called latency in these things. And that means that there's a little bit of delay. So when you hear me and then somebody else is listening from the other side, there's actually like a little split-second delay kind of thing happening there. And so to show you what this delay means and why we can't actually play with each other on this kind of connection, I'm going to ask our musicians to play together a little bit. And you're going to see that it's just, it may work and it may not work. But we're going to find out. So Rowan, would you just sort of lay down some kind of music on thing, and then Brian come in after that, and Hector come on in after that, and let's see if you all can play together online.
All right, here we go.
That was terrible.
It's messy.
So that's what happens. That's what happens. That's the latency problem. Everybody is a slightly different distance away. These things travel at the speed of light, but even that little bit of distance makes that little bit of difference. So we really can't do that. So that's why we're using this video thing, this a cappella program. So I'm going to play you another little a little part of this. I'm going to go to the next little section here. So give me 1 second while I go ahead and share my screen with you, and we'll hear a little bit more, and a special little section here where each of the musicians are actually sharing some of how they solo with these things as well. So I'm going to put this up onto our keynote, and I'm going to play. Okay, going to stop sharing there. Sorry for a little bit of the audio issue there. Yeah, I think the difference there was, first of all, everybody was all lining up, right? I mean, guys, could you unmute yourselves now? Let's talk a little bit about this. So it's everybody was lining up, and I think that made it a lot more interesting and exciting. I think one of the cool things about that was hearing how each of the individual instruments gets a chance to shine. One of you want to talk a little bit about what it is to solo on top of other folks?
Yeah, we could talk a little bit about how we built that. So when we were sharing the app, which is called Acapella, I began as the first musician, and I played a part on the tabla. And then I sent it to Hector, who added his part to what I had already played. So his musical choices were based on what musical choices I had already set up for him. And then he sent it to Brian, and then Brian added his musical choices. And it's like having a conversation. When you're having a conversation with many different people in the room, you're bouncing energy and ideas off of each other. And in this case, we can't do that live. So we started to add our parts separately and came together to create that composite.
Yeah, just adding on to what Rowan said, when each of us heard the different things that other players had played for it, we could tell that there were patterns that were played, and there were moments where there was more space, and that kind of influenced what parts that we each played, because if there was more space, we might find that an opportunity to solo and kind of play more kind of in the spotlight, or we might want to support the pattern with another thing that we might play. And you know, listening as percussionists from different, we each have a lot of world music experience, so we understand what's being played, the implications, and the ideas that might go with that cohesively.
Yeah, something that was unique for me, and I really love, is that we are, or I am usually used to play live with other musicians and to improvise and to do things on the spot, right? Which is a great thing. But in this format, for example, after Rohin sent me his music, I was able to record several times, so I could hear what he sent me, then I'll play something on top of that, I record it, and then can listen to it again and see if I like it or not, and then if I didn't like it, I can record again. So I can work more like a painter, let's say, or like a visual artist that can edit what I play.
Cool. And that's great, because we're going to go back to that video a little bit later, and we're going to add some movement to it this time as well. And we're going to sort of see how everything goes to it. one of the things is everybody here is a percussionist. You all play drums and percussion and things like that. And I think it's important for us to consider this idea of instrument classification, and
Very much so.
how you classify musical instruments. And I know that there's three main ways that people play percussion instruments. One is that you strike something. One is when
Boing,
you,
boing, boing,
right,
boing,
okay, when you shake something, okay, that's another possibility. Or when you scrape something as well. And I know that in each of the traditions that you work with and so forth, there are musical instruments from all those. So we're going to ask you guys to tell us a little bit about the classifications of musical instruments, but we're going to add a little random element here. Instead of saying, one person's going to do this and one person's going to do that, we're going to do this by odd finger for the first time to see who's going to be the first person. And we're going to be talking about shakers. So whoever's going to be the odd finger is going to be telling us about shakers. So on the count of three, once, twice, three, shoot. Okay, Rowan, you're the odd finger, so you're going to tell us about shakers.
All right. Well, it just so happens that I have a very large samba shaker here. Can everybody see this? Because right now on my screen, I see our hosts, John and Karina. So let's see. This is my samba shaker, and it's a very large shaker. And you play this in Carnival in Brazil, but I'm here in Harlem, and I play it by shaking it. And so that's one way that we play percussion instruments.
Great. Okay, that's neat. That's really loud too, because it was definitely causing some issues with the audio there as well.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so then the next one we're going to go back to and find out who's going to do the others. Now, we can't do odd finger this time, so it's going to be paper, scissors, rock. And we're going to decide who's going to talk about scrapers. Okay, so the winner talks about scrapers. Okay, once, twice, three, shoot. And we got rock. Once, twice, three, shoot.
Oh,
Once, twice, three, shoot. Up. Okay. Okay. Hector, you're the winner.
All right. What am I doing? Scrapers?
Scrapers, yes.
Scrapers. Well, I have a scraper here that actually
So
I
that
made. Yeah.
looks like coffee cans.
Yeah, that's not a scraper.
No, yes, it is a scraper. But both of you are right. These are two coffee cans, and Karina, you're right. This is also a scraper. All right. So I turned these two coffee cans into what people call in Dominican Republic the guira. Yes, not the guiro, the guira, because it's made out of metal. Yes, and maybe with
A little afterkick, right?
scrape it.
All right, nice.
That's an awesome instrument. Guira. I didn't know.
Yep, the guira. To dance merengue.
That's great. Okay, Brian, so you're up with drums, it sounds like.
yes. So I have a little drum from India. It's called the kanjira. And we play this drum. So this drum has a membrane. And the third way that we can talk about the percussion family is anything with a membrane, that's something you'd strike, and the membrane would sound like this. And I can also press it and change the sound of it, because as I press more, it's going to vibrate faster and faster, and the pitch is going to sound higher as opposed to lower. So I'll play a little more on here.
Nice. It's got a little tambourine kind of sound too, right?
It does. It's also a shaker. And I can scrape it too.
Nice. And can you also play the wood side of that too?
Yeah, I can knock it. Or take a stick. But those would be some extended techniques.
Cool. Okay. And the reason I'm asking is because we're going to turn to Hector's instrument in a moment. And I know that Hector is all about hitting stuff that is made out of wood. Is that correct, Hector?
Sure, like would make some beautiful sounds.
Okay, so Hector, before you begin, at this point, what we're going to be asking the kids to do is to listen to Hector's demonstration, and then we'll take some questions at the end of Hector's demonstration. So, kids, if you're there and if you're on the chat thing, and if you hear what Hector's talking about, we'll ask you to then type in some questions, and I'll speak some of the questions to Hector. Hector, you've got a really cool instrument for us. What is this called?
Yes, well, as I was mentioning before, it's an instrument that comes from Peru. I'm going to show it to you. Yes, it is called cajon. Cajon means big box, right? And this is exactly what this instrument is. It's just a wooden box that was turned a long time ago in my country, like many countries of the Americas. Many people were brought all the way from Africa in those days as slaves to work in Peru. So they were not allowed to use different instruments. So they have to come up with creative ways of using everyday objects to make music. So what I want to do is take you in a journey real quick to Peru. Yes? So let's start our journey all the way to Lima, Peru, which is the capital of Peru. Here we go. One more time. All right, we are here in the main square in the city of Lima. This is the capital of Peru. This is the place where I was born. And I'm going to take you in a little tour through the city. We're going to go next to the ocean because Lima is right next to the Pacific Ocean. And as you can see, it has a lot of sand, and because Lima is in a desertic area, right? So if you start walking out of Lima, this is the kind of view that you're going to have of the desert. Yes. Now in the desert outside of Lima, there's a very important city for musicians called Chincha. Yes. In Chincha, you hear a lot of the music that it's played on the boxes, which is called Afro-Peruvian music. Yes. So in the town of Chincha, right, there's a lot of celebrations, a lot of musical celebrations, and the cajon, the box drum, is the main instrument there. Yes, these are some of the masters of this style. Caitro Soto, Cotito on the cajon, yes, and back to the box drum, yes. So maybe at this point, I would like to play a little bit of the cajon for you so you can hear how it sounds, yes? All right, so I'm going to play a rhythm called festejo, okay? And festejo means festivity, celebration. Yes, I hope you enjoy it. It goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes? All right. I'm actually going to play a little bit more because I'm going to show you a song. And this time, I would like you to sing along with me. Well, not along with me, because I'm going to show you a song. I'm going to sing one little part of the song and then try singing along after me. Yes? And as I was saying, festejo is a rhythm for celebration. Yes? And this song that I'm going to sing for you is a song that was created to celebrate freedom. When slaves became free, they created this song. It goes like this. It's called Que Viva Mi Papá. Hooray for my father. Are you ready? And listen first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Que viva mi papá. Que viva mi mamá. Very nice. Que viva Ramón Castilla. Eso es.
Great. Thank you, Hector. Thank you so much. And
I have a question. I noticed that you change the shape of your hands as you play. Is that correct?
Yes, for every instrument, musicians, we develop what we call a technique, right? Which is the right way or the best way to get a sound out of an object. Yes, for the cajon, there are different techniques, different ways of playing. Sometimes if you put your hand like a cup or like a spoon, you can get a really nice low tone out of the bass. For the top, however, you want to make very loose your fingers, almost like a slap.
Wow.
lovely. Thank you so much, Hector. So at this point, we're going to give our spotlight to Rowan, and Rowan is going to tell us a little bit about the instrument that he brought today. Rowan, you ready to go?
So, hello, everybody. Yes, I've already traveled to the country where my parents come from, which is India. And if you look behind me, I'm sitting in front of a great building called the Taj Mahal. And this instrument, which is called the tabla, comes from India. And I thought I'd start by playing the tabla so you can hear what it sounds like. And it sounds like this. I use my hands and my fingers, and there are lots and lots of different sounds, some of which actually sound like water. If you notice, I'm actually sitting in the pool that is in front of the Taj Mahal, something we can only do here virtually because we can't play in water, but we can make it sound like water. So that is the sound of my instrument, the tabla. Can you all say tabla? So tabla is spelled T-A-B-L-A, and it's a pair of drums. That means there are two of them. And the tabla here on my right, so on your left, is made of wood. The shell is made of wood. On your right, the shell of this drum, the low tabla, is made of metal. In fact, it's made of copper. And this copper allows the drum to be very resonant and sound low and deep like that. So I have a low drum and a high drum. And together, they form the tabla. Now, there's a really fun story that I love to share about how the tabla came about. And the tabla is actually maybe only about 200 to 300 years old. That being said, there was an instrument that came before, and the instrument used to be just one drum that someone would play in their lap from side to side. So the story goes that a very, very clumsy drummer was preparing to play a concert for a king. And when the king, and here we have a king, this is an Indian Maharaja, a king who loved music and wanted to hear this beautiful drum that came many years before the tabla. The story goes that the clumsy drummer dropped his drum. And when he dropped his drum, it broke in two. And that gave birth to the tabla because the king was so determined to hear some music. He said, "Can you please play something for me anyway?" The drummer wasn't sure if it would sound good, but it just so happened that the king loved the sound. And from that day forward, the tabla became very, very popular in a lot of music that comes from India. Now, my parents come from India, and they actually moved to Canada many years ago. So I was born in Canada, and I'm a percussionist who also plays many, many different kinds of instruments. I play the drum set. I play a lot of Latin instruments. I play a lot of Persian and Middle Eastern instruments. And percussion is a big family. As you remember, we play instruments in the percussion family by striking, by shaking, and by scraping. But the tabla is played by striking with fingers, and every part of the tabla has a different sound. If I play in just the middle, I get a very specific note, a beautiful round-like sound. And if I play on the edge, I get a higher note. And that's something that's really unique about the tabla. It's tuned. It has very, very specific notes. This is, in fact, a B on the piano. So this would be a B. And this would be a C sharp all the way down at the other side of the piano keyboard. So the two instruments come together to form the tabla. Now, I'm going to play a little more for you. And I want you to notice something. As I play, I'm going to do something that you may not have heard me do just yet.
Wow, that was
I'm
really
going
cool.
to
Very cool.
transport.
Very cool.
Well, I'm going to transport back to my home studio, my living room in Harlem. And you can see in the corner, I have a drum set, I have my shakers, but something that I haven't shared with you is my language. And of course, I'm speaking English to you, but the tabla has a language. And this is what's very special about music. Music is a language. All of us are communicating with each other and able to play together because we have language, this universal language of music. Now, I'd like to teach you some of my tabla words. If I were to just play this drum, I would say na. Can you say na at home?
Yep. Nah.
Now, if I were to just play this drum, the low drum, I would say gay. Can you all say gay at home?
Gay.
Now, if I put the two drums together, I have a new word, and that says da. Can you say da at home?
Da.
Da.
Now, there's a really tricky one. You heard me say some of it, but I know you can do it at home as well. And it goes like this. Tiriketa.
Dirigeta.
So those are four different words or syllables. And really, we take those different words, just like you do in language, and we can move them around to different places to say different things. So I'm going to give you a challenge. I'm going to start with something kind of easy, and then I'm going to make it a little more difficult, and we'll see if you can all hang on. So I'd like you at home to say what I'm saying while I play it. And it goes like this at first. Da, ge, na, da. Da, da, ge, na, da. Da, da, ge, na, da. Da, da, ge, na, da. Here's a new one. Na, na, ge, ge, da. Da, na, na, ge, ge, da. Da, na, na, ge, ge, da. Da, na, na, ge, ge, da. Da. Here's another more difficult one. Da, ge, na, tiriketa, da. 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 Da, ge, na. And I could keep going. really fast. So that's my instrument. That's the tabla. It comes from India. It's a percussion instrument, and it's my personal favorite. Thank you.
Hey, Rowan, we've got some questions coming in about this, and one question is really interesting. It's somebody at Aiden Villar, I believe, is asking. He says, "How does that sound like water?"
So first of all, if I were to move my fingers very fast, and really I'm taking my hand and I'm dividing this hand into two parts, it sounds to me like water tumbling down a stream or maybe down rocks. And this one especially, I always think that this sounds like a fish or some kind of ripple in the water. And of course, I can also change the pitch, like glug, glug, glug. So by pushing into my low drum with my hand, I can change the pitch by making it tighter or looser, just like Brian was talking about with his small frame drum, the kanjira. So if I push in, I can make it lower or higher, and it sounds like glug, 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 glug. So that's why I think of it as water.
So, there's another question that's come in, and that is, how did you start getting interested in music? And I mean, this is a question really for everybody, but Rowan, why don't we start with you? How did you get interested in music?
Oh, well, it's really interesting for me to think back to childhood and my first experiences with music. I actually began my journey in music as a violinist. So I still play the violin, and it's a beautiful instrument that I love to play. But I'm a percussionist first and foremost, and I started to listen to lots of music that my family used to listen to. My parents had a record collection. Records are those big discs that we put on a record player, for those of you who may not know what a record is. But at the same time, my parents listened to everything from the Beatles to Ravi Shankar to Stevie Wonder, and I would sit for hours and hours and just stare at the cover. I wouldn't even put on the record. I would just stare at the cover. And one day, my dad told me, you can take the record out and you can put it on the record player. And that began my journey. I couldn't stop putting the record on and staring at the cover. And then I started to experiment on the violin. I decided that I wanted to start playing different things that I could use with my hands. And that began my journey into the world of percussion. Now, the tabla wasn't an instrument that I began with, like I said, and it wasn't an instrument that was even in my home. But because my family came from India, I started to think, wow, this would be an interesting instrument to explore as one of many instruments that I play.
Kyle Durko also sent a question that said, "How did you get so fast, and how long have you been practicing?"
Since many of us, if not most of us, are at home, I've been finding time to practice more. And it's really the secret, but it's not a secret anymore because really it's just practice. And everybody has that opportunity to invest in practice if you choose to. And the thing is, if you can practice and sit, you can find all sorts of fun things about your instrument that you may not have discovered even a day or two before. So I encourage everyone to practice. And practice, of course, is not something that's unique to music. When we do something over and over again, we get better at it. And so that's really the secret here for me. I just kept practicing. And before you knew it, I could actually move my hands faster than I even thought I could.
Well, that's fantastic, Rowan. Let's give Rowan a round of applause, everybody. Thank you. Before we move on to Brian, I want to share a photo that came in. One of the kids sent a shot of what looks to me to be their own version of an instrument. And I just want to sort of bring this up so that everybody can see this. Andrew sent this, and what you can see right there is he's created his own kind of like a tri-tabla. Can you all see that? Can you see that, Rowan? Yep. Okay, great. So I'm going to stop the share here at this point. Thank you for sending that in, Andrew, and lots of really interesting questions as we go. I'm going to turn it over to Brian now. And Brian, I'm going to put you on the spotlight and tell us a little bit about your musical instrument.
Sure. First, I'm so inspired about the water. I'm going to see if I can make this drum set sound a little bit like water. So much fun. So again, my name is Brian, and I'm talking about the drum set and presenting about the drum set. Now, the drum set is a very, it represents the United States. It comes from the United States, and we've taken this great trip around the world to Peru and to India, and now we're returning home where I believe all of our viewers are from. And the thing about the United States is that it was founded as this melting pot of ideas, and it is exactly that. So I want to take a trip back in time 150 years ago to around the Civil War time, and let's see if I can get this to come with me. All right. So as you can see next to me, each person is playing a different drum. One person is playing a snare drum, like this. Now, a snare drum is called that because there's these wires underneath, and they rattle, and every time the drum is played, you can hear them rattling. So one person might play the snare drum, someone else might play two cymbals like this, big metal pieces that might sound like. And if you were going down the street or hearing this march of drummers, this person is playing one drum. And then we fast forward a few years to New Orleans around the early 1900s, and there was this place, Congo Square, where it was this gathering spot of people, slaves who were fairly recently liberated, and people bringing music from Europe and people bringing music from the armies and all sorts of this melting pot of ideas, and they started playing them together. And that's what the next picture is. All of a sudden you start to see, this is probably from like 1922 or 23, King Oliver's band, and you can see that the drums are now placed together. The bass drum is right next to the snare drum, which is right next to the cymbal. And I'm going to return back to New York, and you can see my drum set is kind of a more modern version of that, but a very similar idea. Now, that last picture is from this early jazz band, and at the time, jazz was this popular music, and drums were kind of created to support jazz and to make sound effects for vaudeville and do a lot of things like that. I wanted to play you a little clip of one of my favorite jazz drummers. His name is Papa Joe Jones. John, would you press play on this video? Give it a few seconds. Okay. And John, you're unmuted, right?
Can you hear it, Brian?
Yes. I could listen to this all day, but that's probably a good place to stop.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there, and I'm going to take us out and stop the share, and we're back to you.
Cool. So again, that's Papa Joe Jones, and what's really cool is he started playing with his hands in the same way that Rowan and Hector were playing with their hands, and then he really slickly picked up a pair of sticks and started playing with sticks. So the drum set can be played with either hands, sticks, mallets, all sorts of different things, and it can really be any combination of drums or cymbals or instruments from percussion instruments from all over the world, which makes it so cool. And it really connected with that American idea of the melting pot. And even speaking of myself, I kind of come from a similar melting pot in my family because I was raised in a community of Hindus. So I played a lot of tabla when I was a kid, and half my family lineage is also from South America. So I play a lot of South American instruments. And I look at the drum set as a way to kind of combine those instruments and find a voice to create any kind of music that I want. So let me play a little bit for you. Play with some sticks and see if these don't overload the system. involved as well. You probably don't all have drums there, but maybe we could even do some call and response in a similar language like Rowan or Hector were talking about. The sounds of rhythm can be spoken and sung in the same way that they're played. So each sound on the drum set, like the bass drum, could be boom. Can you all say boom? All right, or the snare drum can say da or ga.
Sa.
Ga.
Excellent, and then the hi-hats can sound like tss, tss. And our crash cymbal,
Yeah, this is very much like beatboxing, right?
totally, exactly. And our toms, doom, doom, doom.
Doom, doom, doom.
All right, so let's put them together into some common drum patterns that you might hear. So repeat after me. Doom, 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 ga.
Doom, 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 ga.
Taka, taka, doom, doom, ga, ga.
Zaka, zaka, doom, doom, da, da.
Taka, tuku, dra.
Ka-dooms, ka-dooms, ba-da-ka-da-ku-da.
Shh, taka, tuku, bra.
Taka, boom, blah.
Do, 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 doom.
Doom, 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 doom.
Boom, skats, buku, doom, gra.
Boom, scat. I don't.
All right, cool. We could do this all day, but you get the idea, and it's great to have you join me. So that's a little taste of the drum set.
Hey, Brian, we had a question here. Edward Netchie asked, would you explain a little bit more about how the wires interact with this drum? And I think he's talking about the snare drum.
Sure, yeah, and actually, they're so sensitive that sometimes if I play even the tom, you might hear them rattling sympathetically. But yeah, they are very sensitive wires on the bottom head of the snare. And when I hit the other side, you'll hear them rattling. So much so that there's a switch here that if I turn them off like this, that means that the snares are no longer touching this bottom head, and then it sounds like this. It sounds like a really high tom or almost like a timbale. And then back on again one more time, and there.
Awesome.
So the stick hits the membrane on the top, and the whole thing vibrates so that the wires underneath also hit the membrane at the bottom.
Yeah, you're really hearing the two membranes, but because the bottom membrane has the wires, they are also vibrating together with it.
Great. Thanks very much, Brian. That's great. Let's give all Brian a round of applause, everybody.
Yay!
Okay. So now we have a chance to put this all together, because what we're going to do is we're going to do the whole video that we had created for you before, but this time we're adding in a new element that you can do at your home, and that is some dance. I mean, let's face it, we're all cooped up at home. You've been sitting around there for 2 weeks probably, like we have. And it's time to do some movement. So what we're going to do is we're going to put Karina and I on Spotlight, and Karina's going to show you a little dance that we can all do together, and we're going to join. Okay, Roxy's going to come to me now. So Roxy, we're going to get down so we can do this dance.
Well, I'm going to sit on a little bit of a higher stool so you can all see me. So
Okay. Got the room.
it's quite simple. So what we're gonna do is we do have to count. Dance, just like music, you count. You can count. So we're gonna do 8 counts divided in 4 different moments. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, as if you were just walking. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you all do this? 2, 3, 4. Then we're gonna do this. We're gonna do to one side, my right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Use a little bit like jazz hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we turn to the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we do the same thing. Roxy is getting excited. We do the same thing twice as fast. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we stop and we go. And in here we have the option of, and all of you are going to be doing it. So Is anybody else doing it? Also, you can do silly faces, which is my favorite. So another 4 counts. And after that, let's start again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Listen, make silly faces. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Listen, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, so we're going to put this with a video, and I think you're going to know pretty well when to start. So everybody make some space around you, get everybody ready, and invite your little brother or little sister to come and join in. And everybody, let's do a little dance to our music here.
Come.
So I'm going to go back to our keynote thing again, and we're moving on to our video this time. I'm going to share it for the whole screen. And folks, I think we're ready to start our little video. Here we go. Go!
And did you notice that the last note keeps on sounding, keeps on shh?
So, folks, thank you so much for joining us and I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned something a little bit about percussion instruments and about music from around the world and how people can play together. We love that you came and joined us today in all our different houses and that we got a chance to share what we love with you as well. We love to see more of your ideas and interesting things, and I'm going to ask your principal to forward to us later some of the pictures you might want to send on, musical instruments that you might want to build at home, and we'll get a chance to share those and take a look at them with each other, and maybe we can even post some of them onto our website as well. So first of all, let's get all our musicians back again one more time, and they're going to get us back on gallery view. And everybody take your mutes off, and let's all say goodbye to the kids, everybody. So first of all, Rowan Kimani, let's give him a round of applause. Ryan Adler, round of applause. Hector Morales, round of applause.
Yeah, peruano.
Oh.
Let's give a big round of applause to the kids, everybody. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And we're going to just close this down with a little bit of music to send us out. And once again, always be sure to check us out online at bashthetrash.com. Thanks, everybody. Be safe, be well, stay home.